Okay, the recording is started.
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for coming today to our panel discussion. First, let's go over an agenda. We're gonna welcome our panelists, and we have some prepared questions that we're gonna go over, and definitely any follow-up questions are very encouraged. Right now, I encourage everybody, if you can, please turn your cameras on, just like this was face-to-face, even though we are in Zoom. But I really appreciate it if you turn your cameras on. And I'd like to welcome our sponsors today. So we have HubSpot with us today. We have Ecolab, and we also have Enterprise. And if the representatives from each company could just pop on and just say something, say hello, that'd be great.
Hi from HubSpot. Thank you for shouting us out.
Good evening, Joel from Ecolab. Glad to be on here.
Good evening, Brandon Camille from HubSpot. Happy to be speaking with you all today. And Bryson, good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you again too, Brandon. Perfect. And with Enterprise?
They couldn't make it.
I believe the Enterprise rep couldn't make it. Did we have somebody from KnowBe4 on? Shelby?
Yes, that's me. I was just waiting for my cue. Didn't see KnowBe4 yet. But yes, I'm the Senior Expansion Manager at KnowBe4, going on 6 years here coming up in June. So really excited to chat with you guys.
Awesome. Well,
So we have Brandon, Shelby, and Joel joining us. So welcome. Thank you all.
And I didn't do my full introduction, but I'm a corporate business development rep manager here at HubSpot. I've been here for 4 years at this point, and I am in Washington, D.C.
Thank you for coming, Brandon. I really appreciate it. And I apologize to KnowBe4 for not having your logo up there. I had gotten other information for tonight, but anyways, we're very thankful for you here, and we're
Oh no, we are so mad. We are never going to come to an event like this again. You forgot our image. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. No harm, no foul.
thank you.
We'll put it twice next time.
So I'd like to jump right into it. We have 7 questions prepared for today. And like I said, if any of you guys have follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to either raise your hand on Zoom or to turn your mic on and just ask a question. So our first question for today is, what attributes is your company looking for an interview, for a sales interview? What do you want to see from the candidate in particular for how they market themselves? And if HubSpot wants to go ahead and start, that'd be great.
Sure. So at a high level, there are different competencies that we look for. Things like coachability, business acumen, growth mindset, resiliency. Those are some of like the attributes we look for. But me in actually interviewing somebody, what's most important to me is going to be storytelling. And I know you guys have probably learned and have heard CAR, context, action, resolution, or STAR, situation, task. Action, resolution is probably the best answer for interview questions, and it is because for an interviewer, we don't have context on what you guys are speaking about, and that's the best way to tell a story. And when you look at the sales position, a large part of being in sales is being able to tell and sell a story. So I think more than anything, for someone coming out of college, understand how to frame questions and how to tell that story.
Awesome. And does Ecolab want to jump in?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So some of the things that we look at as far as Ecolab is concerned is the ability to learn or will to learn is actually the better way to state it. We have many different divisions within our organization, and we're always trying to develop from within and also bring on new talent on a yearly basis. So it's one thing to get into the company, and it's another thing to, what else can we train you to do, and what else can we develop you, right? We do invest a lot in our employees and their career path and training and all that. So the ability and willingness to want to learn is huge for us. A couple other things I would say, obviously, be professional, be prepared, be confident, but not, I wouldn't say overly confident, just enough. There's a fine line. But also another thing is self-aware. We don't expect you to know every single thing or be the best at everything. But also do be, self-aware of where your gaps are, where your strengths are, and then, we can address that together.
Can I ask a follow-up, Bryson?
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
So I'm interested, since you talked a lot about, I guess willingness to learn and grow. What's something that an interviewee could say, like during an interview, that would tell you that, that's something that they're interested in?
Well, I mean, a lot of times we get candidates that they may only be stuck on one thing, and that's the only thing they want to do with their career. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. You guys hearing that too?
Sorry, I'm just checking in.
Bryson, it might be your, yeah. There you go.
Okay.
All right. So we get a lot of candidates that, whether they have experience within our same field of business, or they come from a completely different other side, the fact that they're willing to learn and be able to evolve and do something else. Because like I mentioned, we have many moving parts within our organization and many different ladders that you could climb within our many divisions. So, them showing that, they're not just stuck to one thing, or they're only set on one thing. They're open-minded and can be able to be versatile, right? Be able to accomplish many different things and be able to willingness to learn. That's key for us. So, we may ask some probing questions to see where, what they would be comfortable in after that entry role that they are being hired for, just to kind of see like what the future may hold for them, and what other avenues, they're willing to take on more responsibilities and as they further their progression with our company.
I'd also like to add on to that, just being able to tell a story that shows your willingness to learn and show a growth mindset. So tell me a story about a time you had to ask for help and there was a learning deficiency and you had to make up that learning curve, and tell us about how the result of that. How did you show that you learned the skill that you were looking to learn and complete the task? So have stories available that you can show that you are an active learner.
I actually had a follow-up question as well, if I could. Just about confidence. Obviously there's like confidence and there's like cockiness, but when you say there's like a fine line between confidence, is that what you're saying, that at some point it gets to being cocky, or is there like a fine line between confidence as well?
Yeah, I mean, so you don't want to portray as you're very shy and very timid, and you don't want to come out of your shell and you're kind of like, very private when it comes to that. You want to demonstrate, where your strengths are and all that, but you also don't want to come across as cocky, because for somebody that's looking to hire someone and they think that they're that much good or that much better, what happens is now, I mean, it starts in a negative way or a negative perspective, in my opinion, right? Don't get me wrong. Me personally, I'm always looking to hire my replacement. That's my mentality, right? I want to hire the person that I think I could groom and have them take over for me, right? Because I don't feel like I'm done growing either. I want to keep, moving on to the company as well. So like I said, we really invest in our people, and we want to make sure that they are able to keep going along. But the confidence, yeah, that's something that you have to have at the very least a little bit of. I mean, you don't want to have a negative attitude towards things, but at the same time, you don't want to come across as that cocky person in the room. I mean, have a presence. That's obvious. You got to have a presence. You got to give people a reason to remember you, but don't make it that bad reason to remember you.
And
Yeah.
I can expand upon that a little bit more, the confidence versus cocky, if I could jump in, because here's something that when I'm interviewing, I can, as the interviewer, spot head on if I'm on the borderline of, is this person being cocky versus confident? So I'll hit on some questions like, okay, then tell me what your biggest challenge would be coming into this role. I know right away if somebody struggles to tell me what their biggest challenge is, that means that they think that they're a rock star in everything. What that tells me is they're not going to be adaptable to our sales approach. They're not going to be open-minded to what we're doing here because they currently think that they don't have any weaknesses. That's a red flag. Another red flag is if I hear somebody say, oh, well, I can sell anything. I'm perfect for this role. Doesn't matter what the product is. I can sell anything. Well, my common response to that is, well, if this product can sell itself or you can sell anything, then why do we need sales reps, right? If the product can sell itself. So that's something to think with too is, how are you responding to some of these harder questions? Especially like if somebody is struggling with the challenge question, sometimes you'll get a response of, oh, well, I'm a workaholic, or I really struggle, stepping away from the computer. That's not a real challenge, is it? Right? I mean, that's something that's, really coming off like a strength. Obviously, everybody's going to love, any company is going to love if somebody's a workaholic and really puts in that time, but it's not a real weakness. So talk about things that are more related to what is actually, true to the pulse, like whether it's time management or your organization. It's not about not being able to share those things we need to get better on, because we all have them, right? It's, this is what I would like to get better on, but this is what I'm working on to do to get better at X, Y, or Z. So if that helps with just a couple questions, at least I will throw out if I'm on the verge of the cocky versus confident, if that helps.
Yeah, that definitely helped answer my question. Just like being confident, but understanding there's always room to grow. I really like that response. Thank you.
Of course.
The last thing I would say is, I mean, at the same time, we're interviewing candidates, but candidates at the same time should, kind of in a nutshell, interview the organization that they're trying to, work for as well, and understand that, not all fits are going to be perfect, right? So it is a good thing to kind of bring out those weaknesses and say, look, I may not be that good in this, and it may be that you probably acknowledge to yourself, maybe there's not a good fit for me, right? They may think I'm great, but I don't think I'm gonna, last here too long because I think that there's a weakness of mine, and it's okay. It's okay to admit that. At the end of the day, companies are not looking for, handout jobs, right? We're looking for career opportunities here. We're looking to develop people, invest in people, and watch them grow as well. So it doesn't have to be a perfect fit, and if it's not, it's okay. We can move forward in a different direction, but at least you're admitting to yourself that it may not be a good fit for yourself.
Yeah, and sorry I keep jumping in. I just have like one more thing. Would a good way, going back to Brandon's, just being able to tell a story of what you've done in the past that you've struggled with in prior jobs, and saying like, this is something that I've noticed I'm still working on, I've got better at, but this is still something that I'm continuing to work on, and telling that story. Would you agree that that's like the best way to answer that question?
What's the question for me?
Just, I guess it was open-ended.
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, being able to tell a story, answering the question before of like what things I could work on, saying like, oh, these are things that I worked on in a prior job, right? These are things I've gotten better at, that I recognize that, I'm not so much struggling with now, but it's something that I recognize and that I'm still continuing to work on. I've gotten better at it, but this is one thing. By telling that story, like you're kind of saying, I can answer that question.
Absolutely. For me, it's all about how you tell the story, though. You can answer it in a few sentences and give me a high level thesis. That's not really a great answer. But if you give me that context, the actions that you took, and the resolution, that story is going to resonate with me a lot more. So it's not as much telling the story, but how you tell that story. And that's really going to resonate with me.
Right. Thank you.
Also, I can add, going back to the initial question about what attributes our company is looking for in an interview. I don't think I mentioned this. I want to see you guys close. As for any business related interview, I love to be closed. Please close me. Simple questions. Just give me a synopsis of why I should hire you and ask me if I have any reservations about moving you forward. And for specifically sales roles, which is what I work in, a lot of times sales managers will throw certain things out there because they want to see how you overcome objections. But for me, I love a good close in a sales interview. That really ties a nice bow on the interview.
I agree. And to add to that as well, because I'm not sure if I know I added in a lot of points because Brandon and Joel had some great ones there, but I don't know if I got to some of mine. I mean, when it comes to KnowBe4, I mean, we have the saying here where the only constant is change, right? So you have to be extremely adaptable, which goes back to what we were already talking about before with that cocky versus confidence. You're already going to have that ability to adapt to change if you're on the confident side, but not the cocky side, right? But to Brandon's point, absolutely. That is KnowBe4's number one biggest thing, is seeing not only your ability to close, but more importantly, especially from where you guys are at right now, how strong your discovery skills are. Because we're a cybersecurity awareness training company. Training is extremely huge here at KnowBe4. So if you have the bare bones minimum, we can kind of fine tune what to Brandon's point, you may need on the closing aspect or the negotiation piece, but a really strong discovery to kick yourself off. We do tons of role plays where it's not just open-ended questions. We actually have a set scenario to see what sort of discovery questions that you would throw out on an initial call. So when you're going through some of your sales related courses or even marketing courses, a lot of those are, interchangeable. Think about, regardless of industry, what are those discovery questions that you would need to close somebody at a later date? That's what we're really drilling into. And so a big thing a piece of advice that I always tell folks before they go into an interview, knowing that they're going to have role plays thrown at them, is a lot of times you might, be at home with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a BFF, and you're, just trying to drill back and forth with them. That's great. Start drilling with somebody that makes you feel a little bit more uncomfortable, though, right? Because in the interview, it's not going to be your boyfriend or girlfriend or your best friend that, you can joke with. It's going to be somebody that, you feel a little bit more pressure in, and the nerves are going to be there. So whether that's a mentor or maybe a professor or somebody after hours that, just again, isn't maybe a close family friend, and somebody that makes you feel a little bit more on the timid side, because that's more true to how it would be in the actual interview, right? So just a little tip I would give there, because coachability is huge. It's not your performance in that role play. It's okay, we're going to then at the end of that discovery role play tell you these were the things that were really solid and these were the things that we can tune. And then we're going to give you a second chance. So that's where the coachability piece comes in. It's the active listening. Sales is not about, in my mind, and please, Joel, Brandon, back me up, it's not just as much about selling the product. It's about that active listening. How are you ever going to get through to that other person on the other end of the line if you're not being able to hear the problem specific to them and then cater the product to make it fit and become a solution to those needs, right? You can sit there and talk till somebody's blue in the face, but if you're not engaging them, kind of what we call an 80-20 talk time rule, 20% of the time, that's when you're asking questions. 80%, that person should be talking. If it's reversed, you're leaving that call not knowing anything about that prospect, and getting it through that cycle is going to be a hell of a lot harder. So that would be the tidbit and how we're set up there.
I'm curious, actually, for Bryson, like, what was your experience like in the HubSpot role play? Like, was that your first role play, and what was that like for you? Because for people coming out of college, that role play is the first time they'd ever been in a scenario like that. And some people I can tell that they're really smart, but they over prepare and they've never actually been in a call like that. So for someone like you that's coming out of school, what was that role play experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. The role play that I did with HubSpot for the interview was a little different than what we were doing for the sales competition. However, it was also similar at the same time. Like, you have to build a rapport, you have to discover the needs and really listen to the client. But how it differed, I think it was more of the close towards the end was I'm going to push this to an account executive. I want to get this meeting scheduled. And whereas, like, sort of in the competition that we're all familiar with, like, we want to meet with them again and then continue to close. So I think there was a little different feel to it, but going towards like the real world, like, I can totally see how if somebody wasn't liking what you were hearing, they could just hang up on you right there. Or if you didn't engage them, if you didn't build a rapport correctly, they could just hang up and never reach out to you again. So I think it's great training the sales competitions, but in some ways it's a little bit of a false reality because we know that it's not 100% for real. But the techniques and the skills that you learn in the competitions, they are for real. I mean, they directly correlate with sales. But the harsh reality of that, like if I don't get this guy to meet with me again, I'm never going to hear back from him, and that client's going to be lost. So it puts a little more pressure, and I think that's what I got more out of that role play.
No, I love that. And Bryson brings up a good point. You know, one of the things that we really push and talk about a lot at KnowBe4 is emotional intelligence and really being able to read your audience. In our sales internship, we try to turn off the switch of feeling like a sales rep to that prospect on the other end of the phone, and instead getting them to feel as though we are a consultant. We're here to help you. We're here to solve a problem. We're here because you need us, right? Instead of coming from this pitch heavy where, you know, to Bryson's point, maybe we've already lost them. Now they're hanging up the phone on us. And it's like, you know, what just happened? So yeah, coming from a place where you can get your messaging and your dialogue down to a point of, hey, I'm a subject matter expert about this product. I'm a consultant that's here to help you. And getting away from this, oh, I'm just, you know, a salesperson hat, you know, trying to pitch you.
Definitely. And I would agree. And I also want to keep moving because I know we have some questions here, but the next question we have is, what are the biggest challenges that you face coming out of college and entering into a big company as a sales rep?
Do we want to go in the same order? HubSpot lead?
It doesn't matter to me. If you want to get started, you can, Shelby.
Oh, cool. I feel bad. I feel like I've been running the show. So yeah, I'm going to get my answer out of the way here. So biggest challenges, I mean, especially coming right out of college, right? I know the big one. Everybody's feeling like, okay, we're walking into this interviewing against people that have a hell of a lot more experience than I do coming right out the gate, right? So here's the biggest thing that I think is very, very helpful when it comes to this. We've already spoke about it a little bit. I believe it might have been Brandon, where we're talking about storytelling and being able to really highlight transferable skills. Let's be honest, when it comes to sales, whether you're coming right out of college or not, industry-wise, you have all sold in some capacity. We sell every single day in our day-to-day without even realizing that we're doing it. So it's just about honing in those skills, right? And so one of the ways that I say really start to sell yourself before you can ever sell anything else, you got to sell yourself. Come up with a few different resumes. There's nothing wrong with that. I know people that have 3 and 4 different resumes, depending on the type of sales position or arena that they're going into. So if that's a challenge for you, try to come up with a few different forms of resumes that speak directly to what that job description is laying out and what you've done. Even if you don't think it assimilates, you can make it assimilate to a sales role a lot easier than you may think. So that would be, you know, my big tidbit. If you haven't already, start creating some sample resumes based off different JDs of companies that you're interviewing with.
Just for a point of clarification on the question, are you more speaking about like the interview process going into a big company or just starting out at a big company?
I think a little bit of both, but probably like that transition from not working at a corporation or being in school to like an entry level position.
I think in 2022, something that I personally didn't have to deal with is a lot of people are virtual. So understanding the company culture and some of those soft skills that are a lot easier to learn in the office is a huge challenge. And so being really active and aggressive when it comes to feedback and how can you improve, because some of those things are going to be really, really important to your career and understanding the company culture. I've been at way more corporate cultures. I worked at CSX up in Jacksonville for a little while. That was a much more corporate culture, but here at HubSpot, it's a much more laid back tech type of culture. And so understanding how to operate in those cultures and company politics, whether we like it or not, that is a real thing, and knowing how to move in an organization. But being virtual, you don't necessarily get those skills, and sometimes you're still operating as though you were in school, but you're not in school. You're at a company now. You have a reputation, and a reputation at a company, it's not as forgiving as you'd like it to be. So understanding the company culture and being able to find your place and figure out how to navigate that, I think is probably one of the bigger challenges for people coming out of college.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great points. I would add that, yeah, I'm not saying you're at a disadvantage because you're coming out of college and don't have as much work experience as somebody else that may be applying for that same position. But it's more about establishing yourself, establishing credibility, proving yourself to that potential employer that you are ready to take on this challenge. You are willing to learn. You are willing to adapt. Because at the end of the day, like I tell you, many of these organizations, we unless you literally work for the competitor, it's a whole different ballgame. Whenever you switch to that company, you're always going to be learning a new system, a new organization, a new way of doing things. So coming out of college is not necessarily the worst thing. Us in particular, we have an internship program, which kind of works even better. That's a great way in, and a great way to avoid all these challenges, right? Starting off your program and your career with an organization, if you can be fortunate enough for those internships, you already kind of get a head start, right? But yeah, it is a bit of a challenge when you're trying to prove yourself and establish your name. But for the most part, especially in a sales position, like everybody says, it's not so much about I can sell everything. No, it's more, can you sell yourself, right? Can you demonstrate or articulate to the employer that you're a great candidate and that you'll be a great fit. You'll be able to learn and you'll be a great contributor to that team, more importantly.
Yeah, I love that too. And I mean, another thing, if there's a big challenge too, that just popped into my brain as well, it's not always what you know, but who you know sometimes, especially in this situation. So if you're struggling to land that dream job, work backwards a little bit. Look at maybe a colleague, a friend, somebody that's doing something similar to at least the direction or the capacity that you're headed. Maybe they've been somewhere 6 months, a year, what have you. Work backwards through your connections, LinkedIn, what have you, and align yourselves with some of those companies. Because obviously, if they're in your network, they're in similar capacities. Maybe they're in another sales role, and that's a great way for you to get your foot in the door. Because at least at KnowBe4, I'm not sure how Brandon and Joel work, but we're always looking at referrals first and internals first before we're just looking straight to the external market. So with how many applicants we get, if you can tie yourself to a referral name and somebody that can speak strongly to your skill set, that's even more helpful for you, right? If you can't always show that tangibly on paper, but a referral, a colleague can back that for you within the interviewer or the employer, that goes a long way as well.
I would also say a challenge that people face coming into a larger company is that they're intimidated by the size and the titles of people at the company. And so they need help, but are just scared to ask for it. People are at the company, they're on the same team as you. They want to help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It doesn't matter if someone's your peer. It doesn't matter if someone's your superior. If you're struggling, ask for help, because in the real world, you struggle with something and you allow yourself to continue to struggle, you're going to end up on a performance plan at some point. And sometimes you end up exiting the company. And that's not the experience that you want. That's not the experience that I want for you, but that's where you end up if you don't speak up and ask for help. Whereas if you ask for help, you can improve upon the skill that you're struggling with. And now you're talking about promotion as opposed to a performance plan. So one piece of advice that I always give is that when you join a company, try to master a skill. Find a subject matter expert and get on their calendar consistently. Just ask them questions, just learn about what they know, just pick their brain. You want to become a subject matter expert at something. And to that point, also don't be afraid to ask for help.
Awesome. Are we ready for question 3?
Yeah, definitely.
So question 3, what skills are necessary to market yourself? We talk a lot about this in the sales society, how important it is to market yourself, be your own brand. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, internally, it's impossible to market yourself without a network. And so be intentional about building your network. Get coffee, virtual coffee, whatever the case may be. A network is so important when it comes to marketing yourself. You want to have context all over the organization, not just in your silo. So for example, my silo is sales, but I want to know people in products. I want to know people, could be HR. I want to know people in finance and sales ops. I want to have a network all over the organization, not just within my silo, because then I can understand how the company moves a little bit better outside of my silo. And that's what helps people move up in the company, where they can understand multiple silos as opposed to just their own.
Yeah, I would add when it comes to that, yeah, building your community, your network, within your organization and outside your organization, right? That's always going to be huge to your success. You know, for example, in my field, we work with a lot with restaurants, especially a lot of new opening restaurants or existing restaurants that we're trying to gain the business from. You know, I had a little leads network that a couple of years ago we started, and there was one guy who's really tech savvy. He started up a website. He, you know, for us to basically exchange a lot of leads on. We used to meet every single week on a Wednesday, and we had people from all ranging sides of the business. I mean, we had a soda guy, a beer guy, a cable guy. I mean, you name it, anything that a restaurant may need. We had one person in particular, you know, and we would all communicate with each other. We would let each other know of any place that was opening, or any customer that may have just, you know, switched over to them, and, you know, so they could refer us. It was really easy when it comes to my current position at that moment, because I was strictly off of new sales. So it made my job a lot easier. But yeah, within your own organization as well, it's good to know everybody from your marketing team to your sales team to your research and development team to HR. I mean, anyone you could think of. It's always great to surround yourself. Um, Also other divisions, if you happen to have a company that has multiple divisions and you're able to, you know, maybe entertain an offer, or another position in a different division that may be a better career path for you as well. It's always great to really talk to them. Another thing is, especially this day and age, is being a little savvy on social media, right? You know, LinkedIn, that's obviously I mean, it's pretty much like a must now. It's almost like, you know, it's almost like having an iPhone, right? You kind of have to have it. So whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be, you know, stay active. But also, you know, connect with the people that are aligned with what you're looking for as well. It's also great to have all these connections, all that, but try to kind of, you know, connect with people that are in your field and could, you know, be a resource one day, or help you out, or share information with you that may be useful as well.
Yeah. And thinking about it kind of from the flip as well, what if you don't know what skills you should be looking at to market yourself best? You know, that's a common one that comes up with, you know, some more of those sales internships and more of those entry level sales role that we're going through. If you haven't become a part of a corporation like that yet, or if you don't know what the hiring manager's necessary skills are, you know, to help overcome those challenges, how do you know really what to market, right? A big thing that we have here at KnowBe4 is we do 5 hours a week where it's just self-discipline, learning, ongoing engagement, where, you know, obviously several resources here that you can go to drill with, but what are you doing in the meantime? You know, a lot of times what we're asking in more of these entry level sales interviews is, what skills do you bring to the table at this given time? You know, what's going to be relatable to sales, just getting going from what you know of it so far. So what can you do in the meantime to help yourself understand what they're even looking for? I can shoot these over maybe to the main peeps or in a chat, but common recommendations that we give you the high level would be: measure what matters, sales acceleration formula, never split the difference, and extreme ownership. These are all great self-help books that would get you going, and they're quick and easy reads of different techniques and how you probably already use some, like just like what I said, we all sell in some capacity and we have before, right? You probably already use some of these, but it's able to take those concepts and make them applicable when you're actually interviewing, because those would be obviously attributes that regardless of what sales environment you're walking into would be transferable across the board. And that would be a way that you could impress people really early on. If you're coming from more of that entry-level background, not too sure what they're looking for, but just want to come in and really wow somebody, those would be a couple recommendations that books that I could shoot over if that's helpful, Gabby.
Some of those are really powerful books. I know Never Split the Difference is a really, really popular one. One thing that I would add is probably obvious, but we've spoken about a lot of soft skills outside of your role, like eat what's in front of you before anything else. So what skills are necessary? You want to be good at your job. Do well at your job, master your job before you start expanding and taking on other responsibilities. Because if you're not doing well in your roles and you're starting to take on other responsibilities, people will wonder why you're even trying to take on those other responsibilities. So overperformance, high performance in your role, I think is necessary before anything else.
Definitely.
For sure. Thank you. And thank you for the book recommendation, Shelby. We'll definitely be able to share that in our group chats. But let's keep going. Question number 4 is, what are you looking for in a candidate when it comes to how they market or how they present themselves? And this could be in the interview. This could be maybe if you're just recruiting in other forms like the competition, but what are you looking for from them?
So when I can go first, is that cool? So when candidates interview at our company, we ask a question about what they did to prepare for this interview. And one thing that's really important to me in an interview setting is showing that you did research. And that's very simple. Do research on me as your interviewer, do research on the company outside of what the company sends you, because typically the recruiting department will send you a few details about the company. Look up some recent news, look up like the different products, learn about what we sell, do outside research instead of just what's in that email. That's what you do to really differentiate yourself from other candidates. Because I get so many candidates, I ask that question and they just looked at whatever was in the interview, whatever was in the email that they got from the recruiter. But there's so much more information available. HubSpot is a digital company. Everything's online. We're a publicly traded company. There is going to be recent news. We're always releasing new content on our blog. Ask me a question that I'm not going to be able to answer, but show that you did research. That's one thing that really, really impresses me in an interview, a well-researched candidate.
Absolutely. I agree with that tenfold. My favorite is, and I don't know if it's just KnowBe4 or what it is, not only digging in and getting extra information in some way that maybe you can't find online or that you want to dig deeper into, but the flip of that is I definitely have interviewed the candidates where they don't understand the product at all. The last thing that I want to hear is, oh, I get this a lot. So it's KnowBe4, but they'll say, yeah, so before you know, tell me more about your product. I've been interviewing with so many different companies lately, and I'm a little confused. And you're like, okay, it just shows a lack of interest, right? We're not even saying the company name right. You're getting me confused with, 4 and 5 others that you're out there interviewing with. So that's definitely one to stray away from it. And specifically, when it comes to marketing or presenting yourself, you may not think of this one because you're thinking, okay, what am I doing? What are my responses based on the questions they're asking me, and highlighting that piece. But a common thing that I always love to tell people is just as important for you to interview us as it is for us to interview you. So when I open the floor to candidates and they don't have a single question for me, that is a huge red flag. Just kind of shows, a lack of engagement or interest. So a favorite one, if you guys just freeze up and maybe it's nerves, whatever it may be, a great question that you can always ask instead of just, oh, freeze, I don't know what to do here. What is a challenge that the sales team is facing right now? What's an issue that they're experiencing? Let that interviewer tell you a little bit about what's going on, think with that, mull that over, come back with some sort of response that you're like, okay, this is the type of challenge. This is what I would do to try to overcome it, right? Have a result, have a takeaway. So that's an easy one if that's helpful for any of you. Don't, and I think Brandon and Joel can probably agree, there's nothing worse when you try to open up the door and just hit it with radio silence. So yes, that's definitely one that you'll get a lot of good information from, and it'll allow you to mull that over. Even if you don't have a response in the moment, you get that follow-up interview, and that's really going to wow somebody that they've remembered what you said, they've really thought about it, and they want to come back and really wow you with that, if that makes any sense.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Ren. Go ahead.
To Shelby's point, some suggested questions like look up negative news about the company and either propose a solution or like just show me how you're thinking and ask how we're thinking about that. But like show that, like going back to research, like if you can propose a solution to some negative news or maybe a negative outlook on the company, you're always going to be able to find negative news, no matter how good or great the company is. Find that negative news and bring it up in an interview. I think those are always awesome questions. Prepare your questions in advance. Like don't depend on yourself to come up with great questions during the interview. Some of you may be able to, but that's not for everybody. And it takes nothing to do a little bit of research and come up with a few quick questions. Also, as far as candidates marketing themselves, posture, tone, and smile. Like show me that you're happy to be here. Your posture and tone are important, and also pace. And that's something that even I struggle with at times. Sometimes I speed up. You guys probably hear it right now. I'm from New York. A little bit of that is natural, but slow down, take a breath, be calm, smile, and project confidence. And I know we've already spoke about the line between cocky and confident, but those are small cues from posture, tone, things like that. Like that's simple. Just show up with those things, and that's going to do a lot for you throughout the interview.
So as Brandon, Shelby mentioned already, and I mean, there's consistencies, right? It's all about being prepared, being professional, being on time. When it comes to being prepared, I mean, go the extra mile. People, it's not going to be looked at as you're brown nosing or anything like that, or at the end of the day, so the company wants to know that they're dealing with somebody that actually did some research, actually is interested in their company. Right? Just as much as we may be interested in them, right? So us as the hiring person, we're looking at your resume, right? We're looking at your previous, whether it's schooling, work experience, referrals, whatever the case may be. We're doing our research on you to then get it to the point where I'm interested in interviewing you, right? So it's kind of like, it's out of the mutual respect that you do kind of the same thing when it comes to that organization, right? What's their history like? How long have they been in business? Where are they based out of? And I'll just use an example, our company, Ecolab. Okay, hey, I noticed I went to this, local restaurant the other day and I saw your chemicals, your dispensers and all that. And just kind of like lead into some conversation that's very relatable to the company that you're about to apply for or maybe even work for, right? That's something that I think goes a long way. When you present yourself. Professionalism, obviously, be on time. I've always been told, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So always be on time and a little extra early. Show the person that you're punctual, right? Because most likely you will need to be punctual in whichever job or role that you take over. So that first impression is always key. Dress. I mean, I don't think there's any. There's no way of overdressing when it comes to a business meeting, right? I know these days a lot of these interviews may be conducted over Zoom or Microsoft Teams, but still dress up, show the part. I mean, I have interviews all the time over the internet, and I'll tell them, I'll even let them know, kind of, take it as if it's an interview in person, because the last thing I want to see is somebody, in their pajamas interviewing for a position. But yeah, just professionalism, be prepared, have all that confidence. That's about it.
I would say one more piece of game that I'll give you guys in terms of interview questions. If you want to go to the next level, I know we talked a lot about company research. Find out what my personal passion is and ask me how I balance that with work. That's next level. Everybody can do company research, but if you're able to find my personal passion, that's something that's going to resonate with me because that's something that rarely happens. And for me, I'm commonly featured on a boxing podcast. Love to talk about combat sports. If you ever want to distract me, just bring up combat sports. That's something that I'm going to remember in interviews.
Yeah, and Brandon made me think of a great point. I mean, it's not only doing excellent research on the company itself and being able to get more granular in that interview, but doing a lot of research on your interviewers. Get on LinkedIn, look at their backgrounds. You know, there's tons of little takeaways that you can pick up. And then to Brandon's point, if you can research the individuals a little bit more, you now have a way to make that more personable in the interview, because you're not just doing your research on the company, but the actual people as well. So you can build that rapport up a little bit easier when you're speaking on their level.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Let's keep going to the next one. This is similar to the 2 questions ago, but it's more specific to the tools. So what tools are necessary to market yourself? I know we talked about LinkedIn, but are there any other tools that you want to mention?
YouTube. It's not something that I do, but in today's day and age, content is king. And if you can create consistent content on other platforms, YouTube, some people use their Instagram, people love Twitter. Like if you can consistently create content, you probably want to separate that from your personal social media. But if you can create content across multiple platforms, I think that's really impressive and helps you build a following. Oh, TikTok as well. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. When I entered the job market, I actually created a second Facebook. I changed my personal to my first name and then middle name. And then I created a whole second profile that was a professional photo with my first name, last name, added obviously, so it didn't look like I was a robot or a crazy person, some work colleagues, you know, affiliates for my LinkedIn, and just separated the two entirely. Because I can promise you, it doesn't matter how religious you think you're being with your own social media. People will tag you in things, people link you to things, and it's just no fun. And I'll leave it at that. And I know we've already talked about LinkedIn, but a couple things that I'll give you tips or tricks on. Again, we've talked a lot about being able to sell yourself in sales. If you can't sell yourself, you're not going to be able to sell anything else. So even if you have a LinkedIn, okay, great. But a LinkedIn without a profile picture, to me, huge red flag. Gotta have a profile picture in some way. Gotta know that you're a real human, right? And really filling in your skills and assessments fully, not just, hey, put in closing or discovery, but even a few different ways, playing with your acronyms. One person may go into a search and just put B2B, for example. Another person that's recruiting may go into a search and actually type out business to business. So taking some of the skills and not just using the abbreviation for them, but the full text spelling as well will help you out quite a bit too. And any certifications that you may have or ones that you're looking to get, also really helpful. Making sure you're also utilizing some of the back-end settings where you're open to work, aligning yourself with certain titles, because these are all things that on our end, when we're searching for folks, that we're pulling into our own searches. So we're obviously abbreviating things certain ways. We're looking at those that have their spotlights turned on. So familiarizing yourself with some of those back-end settings to LinkedIn if you are already currently not using some of those.
I have a quick follow-up question on pretty much for anyone here on the panel. So I know you guys had mentioned that it's good to be active on LinkedIn. Like, how often should someone that would like to be considered active on LinkedIn be posting, and retweet, resharing content and that kind of thing?
I mean, I don't necessarily know if there's a limit on it, but the most active people on LinkedIn may seem annoying to you, but you're going to know their name, and that's probably the most important piece.
That's very true. I agree with Brayden there for sure. And I would say, yeah, I mean, it's not like you can be overly active. If I guess you want to walk that fine line between annoyance versus people knowing your name, the things that, because I may not have the most creative thing to say every day or every other day, right? But what are the things that I care about most? Resharing, for example, when we became a top workplace, just last week, that was one of the things that we got awarded. So there was already great content out there. I'm just resharing that, or other, folks that you have, not even within your organization, cool things that are going on that are interesting to you, or helpful things that will help others. For example, there, just like when we were talking about books that were recommended, little takeaways there that you see people, or, hey, this helped me with my stats, or this program or this software was really cool for X, Y, and Z. Sharing content that you think would be helpful to others in the industry is well will get you some brownie points.
I think a
Awesome.
key
Thank you.
word is another key word is relevance, right?
Relevance, yeah.
You can post a million times every day, and as long as it's relevant to what you're trying to, whether it's promote or demonstrate or show, I mean, that's fine. But we do, occasionally see that, and everybody knows somebody like that, whether it's on, LinkedIn or any other social media, that they just love to post anything, and it has nothing to do with any of their message or what they're trying to really, promote for themselves. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So just make sure that whatever you are posting, whether it's one time every blue moon or a million times every week, as long as it's relevant, the content, that's really what matters. As long as it brings attention to what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's promoting your current company, whether it's promoting yourself or an experience you had, or something you're doing, something that ties into, your profile, what it's about and what you're trying to accomplish. That's about it.
I actually had
Awesome. Thank you.
one more quick question, just as far as LinkedIn. Is there anything that any of you guys look for in particular on a LinkedIn profile, either maybe positive or negative, that you guys can think of?
I just don't want it to be another Instagram.
Yeah.
There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's all these other, social media sites that you could post, your family pictures and your vacation and this, that, and the other. Keep it somewhat professional. Like I said, relevant to the industry, relevant to your workspace, your company, what you're trying to accomplish, but just don't mix, your personal life with business.
I agree. And the other thing I'll add to that, obviously, I think I've made it very clear. Definitely have a profile picture. That's the one thing that I'm looking at right away. But number two, another thing that I will notice is people might list a position or a job, what have you, but then there's no bullet or detail that follows that. So that's not giving me much context. So when you're going to put in those dates and those positions, even if it's a little more vague, at least put maybe, 3 bullets per each one. So the biggest reason I say that is because, especially in sales, titles mean different things to every company. What an account manager means at one organization can mean something completely different at another organization. And so having just a little, couple bullets about what that title has meant to you gives us insight in the type of sales role that you've actually been, or what you're striving to do. Give us actually some content. And the reason I say that too is make your lives easier. If you are kind of how I was saying earlier, you can come up with 3-4 different resumes depending on the job, right? Well, if you do your LinkedIn right, a lot of times, and I'm totally okay with this, and I'm curious what Brandon and Joel think of this, I'm okay with it. If somebody's LinkedIn is thorough enough, you can just go in and save that PDF. And I have people that submit their LinkedIn profiles, if they're thorough enough, as their resume. Obviously, if I need more, specific information, I'll ask for follow-up copy. But that's something that when you're prepping for a job and an interview can take a lot of time, right? With your resume formatting and, this and this and that. Utilize your LinkedIn, because if that's thorough, you can save that as a PDF, and that can be a form of resume. At least I'm okay with that. Joel, Brandon, are you okay with that type of submission, or what are your guys' thoughts?
I've never seen that type of submission, but I would be okay with it. I think for my company, we still allow people to just attach their LinkedIn instead of a resume. Like sometimes when you have to use a resume, you can just provide the link to your LinkedIn, and that'll be fine.
Perfect. Okay.
And like you mentioned, if it's thorough, I mean, it's detailed, then I don't see why not, right? I mean, you pretty much have already painted enough of a picture on that profile that I don't necessarily need a resume like that.
Yeah. Save yourself some time in that sense. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely perfect. And thank you, Julian and Brandon, for the follow-up questions. That's great. Let's keep going. The next question is, how can you start marketing yourself while you're in college and maybe you have a few more years left until you graduate and you move into the corporate world?
I could start if you want. When it comes to marketing yourself while you're still in college, I mean, so you kind of have an idea of what direction you want to go in and what businesses you want to kind of focus on and all that. But definitely get some mentorship, right? Get somebody or multiple people that you could kind of like, you know, pick their brains and make sure that you really are focusing on the right tasks, the right abilities that are going to best suit you, right? Or are going to, you know, you're going to be able to do what you love. At the end of the day, you're looking for a career. If you don't love it, you're not going to last that long. To be 100% honest with you, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it could be anything. If you don't love it, anybody could tell you, oh, it's about the money or it's about whatever. It's, yeah, that's some of it, right? Money can make a lot of things go away, but at the end of the day, if you don't love what you're currently doing, eventually you'll burn out. So it's good to get that mentorship program with someone, whether it's a relative of yours that may work in a similar industry, or you know, a close friend, or somebody maybe a little bit older that has already kind of gone through either that same company or that same type of organization that could kind of let you know, what worked for them for so many years, or what gave them that stability or that consistency to really continue in that type of industry. So I would definitely develop some kind of mentorship network, right? That'll help you out with that. I mean, if you're in an internship program, even better, right? That kind of keeps you with the eye on the prize and motivated towards, you know, once you're completed with college, you already know what you're going to be doing, and that's great. But in many cases where that's not an option, I think a mentorship kind of keeps you, you know, on the right guideline and make sure that you stay focused on what really matters to you.
I agree. And just to jump into Joel's point, yeah, mentorship opportunities are huge. Internship opportunities are huge, as we all know. And friends and family are great. Also think with what are going to be the titles that speak to other people. So talk is talk, right? You can get in there and you can talk about worked with this person, this was my takeaway, this is what I learned. But hearing it from the horse's mouth is going to go 10 times further, right? So that's why I mentioned professors. You've already established a dialogue with them. You've worked with them in several different capacities. Maybe you pick their brain on a couple things, just asking them, hey, you know, I want to send you a little message here. Would you, you know, feel open to typing up just a quick little endorsement about me? That's wonderful when somebody can just go to your LinkedIn and, you know, to Joel's point, hey, it's not me just telling you that I had this conversation, but, you know, here's, again, it's not in a cover letter format. It's nothing like that. Just being able to even add that as an endorsement. And that's where that title getting going is really going to hold a lot of weight for you guys. So just taking it one step further, and to Joel's point, everything that you're doing, documenting that and getting those people to write little snippets on your behalf is a great marketing tool.
I would say very simple, like organizations like this, events like this, show up and participate. Maybe some people are here for extra credit, and I understand those. And I remember those opportunities with professors, but like be active in the business school. The kids that were active in the business school, we all had multiple offers and we were able to make our choice when we graduated. And that's a good position to be in after you invest so much money in your college education. So show up to events like these and participate. People remember that. People remember your names. People remember your faces. And when you get used to speaking to people that are at a certain level, I can guarantee you that interviewing is going to be so much easier for you.
I actually had a quick follow-up to that. I mean, you mentioned experience and being in the business school, things like this. When you come to experience, are you looking for certain things within experience? Like, let's say something in the tech industry or something in the restaurant industry or chemical industry. Are you looking for those things or just somebody that's just active?
I mean, for me, like, there's not going to be, aside from internships, there's not going to be much super applicable experience. Like, you're not going to have a past career in this field already. So I'm not necessarily expecting that. That's why storytelling is so important, because I think a lot of us have applicable experience that we can use. We just don't know how to frame it. And so being able to tell those stories of the experience that you do have, whether it's clubs and organizations on campus, maybe it's a part-time job that you had, you still deal with certain scenarios that you're able to sell. You're able to show how you learned in a specific scenario, how you excelled in a specific scenario. Like, those are all things we want to hear about. And I think a lot of us have them. They just don't know how to frame them. That's why preparing for an interview is so important, because you're able to frame those stories of normal experiences that a lot of people have.
To that point as well, I mean, you know, absolutely. Things like this are great to start to market yourself. And another big thing too, just to keep in mind when it comes to sales, at least this is the mentality that my chief revenue officer has. Highlight anything that you've done in sports as well. If you think about sales, you know, a common thing that we compare it to is a boxing ring, right? You have an opponent there and you're getting hit with all different types of ejections, right? Every time a punch is being thrown, think about that as another objection that's being thrown. It's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you're going to stand back up. So thinking with every no is going to bring me closer to a yes. So highlighting, you know, even if it's just a sport, I became a captain of X, Y, and Z, or what have you, shows that you have that leadership and that grit to not just be thrown down, but staying persistent and working through. So, I mean, sports are another, I know it sounds a little funny, but that's so many transferable skills that go right into sales. And we can go on to other questions and fun stuff like that. But I'm going to throw in just like the little group chat, just if you guys want a little YouTube video to my chief revenue officer. He used to be an MMA fighter. So this is actually where that thought process and that mentality comes from with the competition of sports and kind of the boxing ring concept. If that helps with the way we kind of think about it.
Definitely, I would agree. I think somebody wrote in the chat, maybe someone in the industry you're looking forward to get into that's willing to meet every now and again for a coffee just to pick their brain. Joel, definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when it comes to that. I mean, I'm just saying in a general way because, you know, obviously this person that you would connect with would, you know, have some kind of vested interest, right? And your you know, willingness or your wanting to be in that same industry or that company and not necessarily paying you or has some kind of internship program that keeps you kind of in that conversation, right? So it's got to be somebody that is either established in a company or the industry that you're looking to get into that is willing to, you know, share information with you. You know, you have to be honest with them and let them know this is something I'm really looking to get into. You know, if it's that exact company that you want to work for, I'm pretty sure they will never mind because great organizations are always looking for great talent, right? So somebody that's going out of their way, that's interested in learning about a certain person or a certain organization and really wanting to develop themselves at a younger age, I mean, that's a great thing. Organizations are always looking for that. So I know it sounds weird, but don't be shy about asking somebody for that.
And tag on to that, like find the person that you want to be. Doesn't mean like your whole life has to be like them, but career-wise, find the person that you want to be. Someone who fits your molds, who you think maybe they have a similar background, like someone who you can relate to, and ask. Like that's the difference between certain opportunities and not getting those opportunities. It's just being able to speak up. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So at least ask.
Thank you all for your answers. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. And let's go into our last question. So what daily practices help you to stay committed to achieving your sales goals? This is a little different than marketing yourself, but from you guys that have worked in the corporate world for a couple of years now and have a career, what daily things keep you on track?
So I'll give you guys a couple things. Number one is I tell my whole team this all the time is buy a whiteboard. Buy a whiteboard, and if you're going to work in a virtual or remote space, keep that whiteboard visible and write your goals on it, because that's going to help you every single day. It's going to help you see and visualize what your why is. You always want to remember your why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? It could be money. It could be legacy. It could be wanting to grow in the company. It could be you're competitive. Whatever the case may be, remember your why. Write that on the whiteboard. And those are small things that start to change your universe. If you want to see the world around you change, you really, really have to believe something to the point where it starts to shift your decisions, little decisions here and there. And slowly but surely, the universe around you will start to change because you actively believe something and you're chasing those goals. But I think it starts by surrounding yourself with that message. And a whiteboard is a simple way to do that.
And along with the whiteboard comment, not just reminding yourself what gets you out of bed in the morning and what your driving force is, and being able to get yourself also organized and lay out what those to-dos are. Pick apart that whiteboard. One thing that I'm a huge fan of is color coding and tabs. I'm going to look at the day and what are the absolute priorities? What is going to kill me if it just does not get done today? You may write out, 20, 30 things, but you have to remember there's only 8 hours in the day, right? So separating what has to be done versus, okay, this can, go to tomorrow and it's not going to kill me, right? And just staying positive. That's again number one. Kind of going back to what Brandon said, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and you're going to miss every single close if you're scared to pick up that phone and you're scared of a no. The more dials, the more no's that you get, the closer you get to a yes. And I cannot emphasize that enough. So staying positive through that time, because you will get the win. Another big thing to keep an eye on is stats. Regardless of departments, my own department, even not being in sales, but sales is a huge one. That'll help you know real quick what your priorities should be versus, okay, what can come tomorrow. Stats meaning obviously closing deals, making revenue dollars. There's a whole lot that goes into that, whether it be the number of contacts that you make, the number of presentations that you do, what have you. So being able to reflect on prior days and prior weeks, if you're getting into a rut, what's going on? Looking at, okay, if the dollars are going down, what are some substats or some trends that looking into future weeks, you can allow yourself to get more organized in that sense to bounce back from maybe, let's just say, using sales specifically, a low producing month. How do you get organized? How do you know what to strategize yourself? Reflecting back on prior stats.
Yeah, I would add those are all great points. I would add it's kind of in the phrase of the question, right? What is the sales goal? What is the objective, right? You want to stay committed to something, you got to know what the actual goal is you're trying to achieve, what you're really shooting for, and then plan for all that. I think you got to stay consistent with that plan. As they say, you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So no matter what it is, whether it's that daily goal, that weekly goal, the monthly goal, yearly goal, what is that goal? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Whether it's a sales number or certain tasks that it need to be completed, whatever it is, what is that? And don't deviate from your plan. You, at the last resort, be able to adapt if you have to that plan, but try to stick to that plan as consistently as possible, because today, there's an excuse for one thing and then it becomes another thing that drags into tomorrow, right? You want to stay consistent with your plan and your goals, because if not, it gets real stressful at the end when things kind of fall apart. I mean, I like to wing it sometimes, but for the most part, I do kind of plan. I mean, look, since we're being fully transparent, right? I was told about this call a couple of days ago for this panel, right? So immediately I was sent 7 questions. What do you think I did? Right here, wrote down the 7 questions, wrote down a couple bullet points of each question and what answers to share with you guys, because I think that's, in my opinion, that was the best way to be able to give you guys 100% of my, of my knowledge. For other people, they don't need that. I do, but stay close to your plans, know your goals, and see them through all the way. Don't give up on them halfway into the month or halfway into the year if things might not seem to be going the way they're going. So stick to that plan.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. Just one little tidbit I'll give you guys when it comes to the favorite things that my managers love to hear in interviews. Decide what your threshold is. And to Joel's point, I mean, once you discover what the company's sales goal is, you'll, I'm sure, start to hear more and more of this. You'll have a quota, kind of that minimum metric to meet, right? And then you'll have more of a target or an aggressive goal to meet. So don't think with just whatever that company goals are, whatever that quota amount is your bare minimum. If you have the threshold, look at that target as your bare minimum. That's something that hiring managers love to hear. I'm not shooting for, this 30 mil minimum expectation, targets at, 50 mil, whatever it may be. I'm looking at that as my bare bones minimum. I'm not happy until I'm over exceeding target. Putting that as your minimum, I think, because again, you're not just in sales for the fun of it, you're in it to make a lot of money, right? So work backwards. Anytime you're in an uncapped structure, especially, what is the number you want to make? Then work backwards in stats. What do I have to do then? If I want to make this at the end of the year, what does that mean I have to do a month? Okay, how many demos, how many calls, how many contacts, whatever have you, how many prospecting hours do I have to put into that to get to that monthly goal that's going to round me up to the quarterly, to the annual goal? So yeah, I love that point. Familiarizing yourself with the company goal, but then deciding, do I want that to be my baseline? Do I want that to be my metric? Or do I have the threshold to go above that and set a higher target for myself? Because if you look at that as your just normal quota, then to Joel's point, you're going to be able to stay super consistent with your pipeline and actually committed to meeting those goals time and time again.
I actually had a follow-up question, and I really do like all your answers as far as just building like a foundation. I think the base is the most important thing. So I really appreciate all your answers, but we're talking about whys. So why did you each get into your industries? Like what brought you to want to work for your industries?
Well, mine was pretty easy. Remember I mentioned having that kind of mentorship program, right? So for me, it was kind of my uncle. I saw my uncle since I was a little kid, right? I see him coming home. He's got a company car. He's got all these benefits. I'm seeing him be successful. He's moved up throughout, high up to the organization. I'm like, wow, this, I don't know anything about the company. I didn't know anything about the name, what they did, or anything like that. But I said, well, I want to be like him. So whatever that is, that's what I'm going for. And then when I started realizing what he actually did on a daily basis, to me, at least, it became quite clear. I want to do this. I want to align myself with him and kind of, pick his brain before I even started working for the company. Pick his brain and kind of get to know what he really does on a daily basis, or how he got to the position that he's at now, because he obviously didn't start that way. He had to start with the company pretty much at a baseline level, and he worked his way up to where he was. That I was like, what worked for him, because I want to kind of mimic that. And that's why I kind of mentioned, the mentorship program a couple of times now, because I think once you align yourself with someone that you see yourself being down the road, and the success that they're having, it becomes a lot more relatable to you, right? You could see yourself in that same position. You could see yourself having that same success. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're telling yourself, oh, I'm better than that guy. I could be better than him, and he's made it that far. So imagine what I could do. No, of course, you want to set the bar a little bit higher. But I saw him and I'm like, all right, I can see myself doing that. And so far I've been blessed and fortunate to have been, had a great career so far with Ecolab. I've been here 12 years and don't regret it, not one bit.
I think for me, it was just two different things. First off, I was looking at a few different companies. I think I had like a few offers on the table. HubSpot was not my first job. And one of the first things that I considered is who I wanted to sell to, like what industry I wanted to sell in, what people I thought I would mesh with the most. And HubSpot sells CRM and marketing software. Our marketing product is our biggest product. And so I get to speak to a lot of marketing people. That's an industry that I saw myself selling in. Those are people that I wanted to connect with, that I was interested in, and that I thought I would interact with well. But the other thing that sold me on HubSpot is the culture. HubSpot is well known for its culture, where Glassdoor is #2 place to work in the nation. And I had researched that. I was in a situation prior to HubSpot where I just didn't have a good relationship with my manager. And so the culture of the company and the fact that they were so committed to culture, not only, you get a lot of companies that will talk about their culture, cool. But when you see other people talking about your company culture, that's something that was really attractive to me. And HubSpot was well known for its company culture. They published a culture code. It's something that you can see on our website today. And so how intentional they were about culture and how people were treated at the company was something that really, really attracted to me. So I looked at, as a salesperson at the time, I'm not a set, like I haven't sold in, I guess, a few months now. I'm more of a manager now, but I looked at who I wanted to, the people that I wanted to sell to, and the company culture. And those are the two things that attracted me to HubSpot.
Yeah, I think a lot of those are huge. And looking at HubSpot and some of the others, you really have to evaluate what you want yourself. Because like when I look at KnowBe4, for example, nobody knew who we were. I mean, we came into business 10 years ago. When I started almost 6 years ago now, I was employee number 113. Just to put it into perspective, we're over 1,400 employees now, just in 6 years. So at that time, we were a very small startup. And you have to decide, are you the person that wants to take a risk, wants to take a challenge? The culture, the environment, the getting up off the ground and running, it hasn't quite happened yet. It scares the hell out of some people, and they want to get with a very established company right off the bat. Other people, they're like, no, let's see, what that challenge is and allow myself to break in. That was something that really was intriguing to me, because if you can get yourself down on the ground floor and grow within an organization like that, the potential just really opens up. And part of the reason I decided to take that risk, knowing that I needed a game to play, knowing I needed a challenge, what makes it worth taking the risk? Got to really evaluate, especially in sales product. Is this product something that everybody needs? Cybersecurity awareness training, for example. It doesn't matter the vertical, the industry, especially if you think about times where the rest of the world is struggling. COVID was the best thing that ever happened to my organization. Because if you think, if cybersecurity awareness training wasn't important to you before, and now you have all these people working remote from home, where dogs and kids are sitting on keyboards, it became top of mind for sure, right? So looking at something that everybody needs, any vertical could benefit from it, being more cutting edge, and more importantly, aligning yourself with a company too that's focusing on that one mission. We have our main training platform, and then we have our compliance manager. If you're aligning yourself with a company that has several different products, kind of going back to what me and Brandon were saying before about being that subject matter expert, being a consultant, nobody can know everything about anything, right? If you're, trying to sell 30, 50 different products, you're spreading yourself a little too thin. If you can really hone in on one product, then you can truly become a consultant and an SME about that, because you can put all your time and attention into that one product as opposed to spreading yourself out too thin. So those were a few of the reasons why, I was led this direction and what got me going. It was definitely a challenge, but it had to be worth the risk. So that comes with really evaluating the need for that product in any given environment, in any vertical. How's it going to perform?
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I think it's unique that you all have different perspectives. Did you want to say something, Brandon? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the elephant in the room for a lot of people is going to be money. But I mean, who doesn't like money? Who doesn't care about cash, especially people in sales? And so, like, I won't talk about salary for companies, but what I will say, with the tech industry being so big, companies pre-IPO or publicly traded companies that give you equity in the company is huge. Like, that is so important. That helps you chase down other endeavors in life. Shelby spoke about the pandemic. HubSpot stock when I started was $120, and we rose over, I think we're probably around $500, $400 now, but we rose to over 800 at some point during the pandemic. And so I had tons of HubSpot shares from my offer, from my promotions. I'm in the stock purchasing program. And so that's something that benefited me personally. And so when you have companies that are willing to give you equity, and you look at the product, you say, wow, this product has a lot of room to grow within the market. The market is untouched. That's something that you can benefit from, not only today, but long term.
Absolutely, Brandon. That is exactly where I'm headed. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's kind of cool. You guys all have different stories, and it just comes down to, like you said, Brandon, in the beginning, like telling a story. Like, I've been asked in the interview, like, why this company? And I think just being transparent. I did want to go back to one thing Shelby said, though. She was saying, find one thing in particular and be great at it. Is that what you guys would recommend? Let's say you have a diverse set of products, right, that you want to sell. would you recommend finding one thing you're really good at and just being good at that in particular, or trying to get good at everything, little by little, good at everything, building a foundation, and then the whole product, like the whole company, you kind of know what you're doing?
I would,
Ye-
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say first master something, right? Master, if it's 5 products or 5 services that you're offering, whatever it is, you know, as a company or an individual, master one, right? Then move to the next one, right? You know, we have that phrase that you could be a jack of all trades, that, right? You know a little bit about, a little something about everything, but not really an expert in anything, right?
Jack of all trades or a master of none.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. That's exactly what it is, right? You don't want to be known for that. You only know a little bit about everything. You want to kind of, I mean, you don't want to only be a one-trick pony either, right? You want to master something, and then once you've fully grasped it, that you understand it, and you're great with it, you're comfortable with it, then move on to the next thing and master that as well, right? It's kind of like you're just adding on to your levels of expertise within that field or that organization. So definitely hone in on one thing to start, and then continue to evolve and continue to add to your repertoire, right? The more things you know, the more offerings you're able to help your potential customers with, the better for your overall success.
Ditto.
You guys are likely going to join companies after college, and your first week, you're going to be like, holy shit, there's so much to learn. Like, it's like drinking from a fire hose. But I tell my team the same thing pretty much every single day. 1%. Get 1% better every single day. Over the course of a little over 3 months, that's going to be 100%. You're a totally different employee than you were 3 months prior. But be very intentional about improving 1% every single day. And while it seems small, it compounds, and you're going to get so much better. And over the course of a year, you're going to be a dramatically different employee.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. And does anybody else have any more questions before we close it out today?
I love this, by the way. This is awesome.
Yeah.
We gotta do this more.
Yeah, this is a great event.
It's really good. So I'm going to hand it over to Julian to close out the meeting then.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Shelby, Brandon, and Joel. It was awesome having you guys here tonight. I think you guys shared a lot of value here with the students, and I hope that everyone took away something awesome from this, because it really was packed with a lot of value. So again, guys, thank you so much. Just to give a little bit of outlook for the week, we've got Mastering the Art of Sales Language with Northwestern Mutual Thursday here on campus in CVC 155. It's the big auditorium at the base of CVC. That's going to be a good one, especially for, people that are interviewing and, just getting acquainted with that business acumen and, the lingo of sales. That's going to be an awesome event. And then also next week, next Tuesday, we're going to have another virtual workshop with KnowBe4 on how to sell virtually. So Shelby, I don't know if that's something you'll be attending, but we'd love to see you there as well. And I think that's going to be an awesome event, considering, how stuff's kind of going on right now. And then
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do what I can. I do have, you guys will be in good hands. One of my team members is actually running that, but I am going to try to join if my schedule frees up. So thank you.
Awesome. We'd love to see you. So for those of you that are here that are members, you guys already know this, but for those of you here that have joined that are looking to become members, I'd say go to our website. Just look at the memberships. Memberships are half off right now. So especially if you're looking to get that membership for spring and fall together, that's only $30. And for the in-person meetings, you will earn that back in food alone after like 3 or 4 meetings. So definitely worth it to be able to, come out to the meetings. And obviously, guys, if you're not already involved with us in the group chats or our Instagram, our LinkedIn, feel free to scan these QR codes here just to stay up to date with, what we're doing and making sure that you guys are really getting the most out of Sales Society, because obviously from tonight's event, there's a lot to get out of it. Is that everything on there, Bryson? Yes. All right. Awesome. So again, guys, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us here on the e-board. Again, thank you to those who came out. Really appreciate you guys being here. Hope everyone came out with a lot. And just once again, everybody, thank you. This was amazing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Again, thank you, Brandon, Joel, and Shelby. It was a really a great event. And thank you for taking time out of your day to provide value to us here at the Sales Society. We really appreciate and we value your sponsorship to our program. So thank you very much, guys. And I hope everybody has a great evening.
More than welcome. You guys had great questions. It was wonderful connecting with all of you.
A huge thank you to our panelists. And by the way, if you have any open positions, we're going to be sending out the recording of this meeting. So if you have any positions open that you can send me the link to where students can apply, we can send that out when we send the recording as well. So feel free to email me those.
Will do.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody. Take
Everyone
care.
have an awesome night.
Again.
Love you guys.